Now, I think it's critically important that you understand the US trends, but you've got to bring pricing to your local market too. You've got to say, hey, here where we're at, here's what prices are doing.
Hey everybody, welcome back to our bi-monthly webinar with a good friend of mine who is the smartest person I know in the real estate e-commerce world, or what do we call it? We call it what do we call it? Economy, right? The economy.
Yeah, absolutely. Real estate insights. That's what we want to deal with.
So. You're our personal LabCoatAgents real estate economist. Storyteller.
Easy. Yeah. Economists tend to make things more complicated. I'm trying to make them simpler. Let's do that.
That's it. And I love what you bring. And, listen up, guys. We got a half hour. We're going to be talking about all sorts of things like what's going on sustainable and what's the job market. That report just came out today. And what's going on with interest rates and all sorts of other good stuff. So, David, welcome, man.
Thank you. You're right. Jobs report came out. We talked a little bit about that. It's good to be back. Good to do these every couple of weeks and see people joining here. Certainly, let us know where you're watching from in the chat. Ask a question. Johhny and I, at least I know for me, every couple of weeks we get to do it. I enjoy getting to have a conversation with everybody on here. Johhny and I lead that, so. Love doing that, and thought let's talk a little bit about interest rates. We talked about it in the last couple of weeks, but I'll give you sort of my take on where we're at right now. But I also brought this question you and I were talking about, Johhny, and I think is starting to be asked more by consumers: is everything prices? Is this all sustainable? Are we heading towards a crash sometime this year? So I want to talk that and break it down. And we might not even, Johhny, be able to get through all that I have, about 30 something slides. We'll kind of maybe do a part one this week and part two maybe in a couple of weeks. So that's where my head's at. But put things in the chat as well if you want to talk about it. If you're listening, how's that sound, Johhny?
Sounds good to me. And if you're on the LabCoatAgents group watching this live, post a question, comment a question, and we'll get to it. I've got it going right here so we can see it.
Yeah. So before we get into the conversation about just these rising home prices and sustainability in the market, I'm going to call it, can we continue this pace that we're on? Let's talk about just the interest rate environment. The average 30-year fixed right now 3.55%. Really not much movement since we last were together 2 weeks ago. Started off the year, just to put this into perspective, right at about 3%. I believe the first week of January, 3.1%. Now, let me give you a perspective right now on this. If you were to finance $500,000 at 3.1% as compared to 3.55% where we are today, it's about $100 more per month. It's not nothing. It's a sizable jump in a monthly mortgage payment. Where experts are saying is we're going to 4%. If you take that same back of the napkin sort of math, that jump is about $250 per $500,000, finance. And certainly we have people, as they say where they're at, maybe it's a fraction of that, maybe it's a multiple of that in your market. So we're starting to see an environment where mortgage payments are going to rise, and that's going to cause people to kind of go, I don't know. And I've talked extensively about it. There is not when you go back historically, there is not a correlation between rising interest rates and prices declining. There's not a correlation between this throwing the real estate market off. I don't say that. I'm not here to say that today. I'm here to say we need to be the educators and show people this is what's at stake. If you're thinking about doing something this year, my money would say do it right now. Based on the factors that are out there, prices, and we'll talk about that in a minute, and interest rates, because it's just going to get more expensive. When Johhny, if you're going to go buy something, I want to buy it when I can buy it the cheapest. That's the bottom line.
And listen, there's I was reading something recently that said, and this is a great little segue to what you just said. You know what has taken first place over Google for visits on a daily basis?
What's that?
TikTok.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Okay. So everything that you just said, there's nothing stopping anybody from going to Canva in making a graphic and talking about what you just said.
Yeah.
And hey, did you know if the interest rates raised to this percent, which, this is where we were, and this is where we are, and this is where we might go. So the time to buy now. You know what else is putting pressure on the market is the rentals. The rental prices are ridiculously high, and they're non-existent like the home sales are, right? Or the home inventory is.
Yeah. So let's talk about what came out this morning. And I'm going to get to some slides here in a minute. Got several of those for you. And I told Johhny, talking about this question of, is this sustainable? We'll get through some of that today, but we'll carry it into next week. So I've got a lot of information on that I think you'll find very interesting. And I would put it back to everybody on this webinar. I want you to look at this and tell me what you think about it. I'm certainly going to give you my perspective, but let's take where we're at in interest rates in that conversation we just had. Jobs report comes out this morning. It beats expectations. The expectations and forecasts were that we were going to lose jobs in this country. We gained jobs. Essentially what that jobs report said is COVID's around and we're moving through it. That's what it said. Now, we added jobs in this country, but the real story here, if you kind of read between the lines, was the net add of jobs over the last 2 months. They come back and revise the numbers, basically. They revised them up by 700,000 jobs over the last 2 months. Unbelievable, the job growth in this country. And oh, by the way, what else happened? The unemployment rate actually ticked up from 3.9 to 4%, which in any normal environment, you would say, we don't want the unemployment rate to tick up. But this was a good thing, signifying more people coming back into the job market, which is what we need. We need that to happen. Why do I bring all this up? These are all signs that point to, we're going to get through Omicron and COVID and we're moving forward. The economy is recovering. People are going back to work and jobs. And I'm not saying there aren't, shortages and things like that. There are. But all of this is pointing to the Fed going to make a move in March. And there were some questions about that. Hey, if the job report doesn't come in good, we may not see that, and the economy's still teetering and this. But you're going to see a move there. You're going to see interest rates, in my opinion, this is my opinion, that they're going to move higher quicker. We're going to be to 4% a lot quicker here. That's why I bring up those numbers, Johhny, because it's our job to be the educator. You can go to, we do all for you at Keeping Current Matters. We give you the graphics to show the difference in payment and things like that. You can go to Google, do a mortgage calculator, and take the average loan amount in your area, take it at 3.1% first of the year, 3.5 where we are right now. Take my words, we're going to 4%. I don't know if that's next month or if that's in 8 months, and it really doesn't matter. And here's what's at stake to anybody thinking about doing something right now. That's the message. You're
going to pay $35,000 more for your house than you should be. Listen, you got to take a look at these interest rates, and let's take a look at the amortization, what the total payback is going to be. Man, I'm giving you guys ideas. TikTok, baby.
Yeah. You're the best at it, Johhny, and the graphics that you use, to be able to articulate those things. So let's hop in here. Let me give you a couple of those graphics that you can use to talk about some of these things. And I want to kind of go through this. I told you I have a lot of slides, and we'll get through some of them today. We won't get through all of them, but we'll keep it on, Johhny. Okay, so this is a question I'm posing. Are rising home prices sustainable, or will we see another crash? The reason I bring these questions up is I get a chance to do a lot of webinars with a lot of different real estate companies and folks where agents are on. This is a question that I start to see pop up more and more. A lot of times, Johhny, when I'm bringing things, there are a lot of questions that are coming off of things like this. And the reason I know it's a question in agents' mind, maybe some agents are wondering, gosh, is this sustainable? But they're getting it from consumers as well. Okay, so let's break down home prices real quick. Let's start there and just say, okay, this thought is being caused by this rise in home prices that we've seen. So let me give you just a little perspective from CoreLogic. 2020, the average home price appreciation throughout the year, 6%. You've heard me reference 10% on that. We ended the year at 2020 at 10%. So every month, CoreLogic and other reporting houses look at year over year price appreciation. So when they do it this month, it'll be February of 2022 as compared to February 2021. They come up with an annual price appreciation. And at the end of the year, they come up with this number of annual appreciation. CoreLogic here for 2021 last year, pegging that at 15% for the entire year. And I'll show you, we finished the year about 18, 19%, depending on where you look. I'll show you why that's 15% in just a moment. In 2022, they're projecting 9.6. I'm going to call that 10% appreciation. Always remember the average appreciation in this country in residential real estate is about 3.8% going back to the 70s and 80s. And you look at where we're at today, much, much more than that in residential appreciation across the country, causing people to say, where does this all end up? I saw this happen before, and I'm concerned. I'm scared about what's happening with prices of homes across the country. So if we go back to 2021, 15% appreciation here. Why is that not 18%? Well, this is a look at appreciation each month throughout the year. The quick answer to this, and I'm not saying if you were to average all these, they would equal 15% there. But what I'm saying is we weren't at 18% appreciation the entire year. And we went through January, February, and March below that, even getting into June and July. And so when they look at their numbers, they're saying, okay, homes appreciated last year by about 15%. So tremendous amount of home price appreciation. We ended the year at 18%, even in December, had a slight tick up. Remember, Johhny, we talked about have prices plateaued, and sort of 2 weeks ago, we put a question mark on that saying, we're seeing some signs they haven't. Certainly is not a bell curve where we said prices will go up and then come back down. If anything, they've plateaued there, okay? Now, when we look forward this year, and I would just want to sort of set the stage here with prices, this is the most recent look at home price forecast. The average of forecasters right now is just over 6%. You see anything from in here, CoreLogic at 9.6 to Zelman at 3%. What the forecasters would say, an economist would say right now, you mentioned that before, Johhny, is they have what's called a bias to the upside. The simple interpretation of that is they believe it's going to be higher. And you're starting to see those forecasts be raised. The reason I bring all this up and give you all this, Johhny, is so that we can be the most educated agents on price. Mm-hmm. Now, I think it's critically important that you understand the US trends, but you've got to bring pricing to your local market too. You've got to say, hey, here where we're at, here's what prices are doing. Here in our market, here's what's happening with price. And you can pull that out of the MLS on whatever factor you want to look at, list price or closed deals, whatever that is, and bring that relevance, because this is a big question that's causing concern. And for us to be the expert, we've got to have a handle on what's happening with prices. So I want to pause for a second because I'm about to go into the driver of these prices, which I'm going to argue is inventory. But Johhny, any comments on that?
Well, I don't, but David has a great question in the chat section. He says, Anthony does. He says, hey, Dave, I'm in California, and I know that long-term 7 to 10, I don't know what that means, buyers will be just fine on the home value, even if it declines. So it's okay to buy in a high market. What concerns me, I tagged you in a Facebook post, that in 2020, your slides indicated that for the first time in over 10 years, that nationally, home value has outpaced historic appreciation. 2021 was another crazy year. How far apart are we now? This is a key indicator for me, noting a possible overinflation of property values.
Yeah, that's a great question there, Anthony. So if you remember that slide, what he's talking about is we took actual appreciation in the market. It's been a while back. And then we overlaid, the real appreciation each year. So if you take what I talked about, 3.8% each year, and then overlaid that. Yes, I haven't updated that, Anthony. I will, if you want me to, but we're well above that, no doubt. And I think that only, proves the point of what I'm bringing right here is that we're in a situation right now where people are going, is this sustainable? Okay, so now I'm gonna respond to that, Anthony. So let's kind of go through this conversation and let's talk about what are the drivers of that. Okay, so If I were saying, hey, what's the driver of that? It is inventory, like what I mentioned just a matter of minutes ago. So let me share my screen here. Sorry, I'm getting this all organized. It's a matter of supply and demand right now. So what you want to look at, let's go back to Anthony's questions. Actual appreciation is outpacing the rate at which it is rising if we were just to measure that at 3.8%. I don't have to have the graphic to tell you that is happening, and we know that is happening. So let's look at housing inventory. What's happening across the country? New listings are falling like a rock. They peaked in June of last year, and you can see we ended up in December. Some of the numbers that are coming out are 1.8 months of supply in active listings across the country. Historically low amount of homes on the market. Second piece of this, active listings are dropping again. Okay, so let me go back. New listings are falling, active listings are falling, putting us in across the country a seller's market. 1.8 months of supply on the on average across the country. And I don't know, depending on, people can put in here, what is it in your particular market? What do you see happening in your market? Or you have more than that? You have less than that? What, some of the numbers, I talked to somebody in San Diego the other day, the number of active listings in San Diego is shocking. And what does a seller's market means? It means home prices in this market are going to continue to appreciate. Okay, not a neutral market, not a buyer's market. So when we think about that, our minds go back to, are we heading towards this bubble scenario? Many of us thinking back to 2008. And I think that's a very logical concern if we're in the business, but certainly for somebody who's not in the business every day, to think, gosh, I don't know how this ends. Homes appreciated 15, 16, 18, whatever number you want to use last year was a lot of appreciation. I'm concerned. Anthony brings up a great question. What about people if they're in the long game, 7 to 10 years? But I'm concerned short term for them. What do we want to look at in that scenario? What you want to look at is a comparison, I would argue, of inventory then when we saw the crash at 07, 08, 9, and 10, and inventory today. Okay, we are in a much, much different scenario. And I'm going to take these slides down in just a minute, Johhny. We can talk through these in inventory. So for people to lose value in their homes, one of two things has to happen, or to lose value in an overall market. You have to shoot up in supply, or you have to massively decrease demand. Those are the only two options right there for pricing. You have to either say, we're going to dump a ton of inventory into the market, or people are just going to pull back and nobody's buying. Either one of those can affect prices. I can tell you right now, in Anthony, I see your wow in there. I don't know which market you're in. You can drop that in there where you're at in the country. But my question would be to everybody on the call. You're in San Diego. So I know in San Diego, because I was texting with an agent the other day about the number of active listings that aren't in a 55 plus community. And my jaw dropped when I saw that. Question is, do you see a massive influx of inventory coming to market through builders, through some other, shift in maybe demographics or shift in employment? If not, you're certainly not going to see that supply number jump up. Let me pause here for a second. Stop sharing. Pricing is always going to be dependent upon supply and demand. So we can start to then look at that and say, what is our forecast for pricing this year? That's the question. And I'll tell you, with inventory numbers right here, my opinion of that is we're going to see a lot of appreciation this year. So Anthony, going back to your question, unless you feel radically different this year, it may even be a switch to the 7 to 10 year, scenario. Somebody that buys a home this year is likely going to see appreciation that if they had to sell, they could sell it next year. Now, I'm certainly not speculating and recommending somebody do that, but unless you see something in your market that says this is going to bring an enormous amount of supply that's going to change the dynamic, or I believe there's an external factor that's going to squelch demand, that's what's going to be the determiner of price.
That's interesting. And there's a lot of other outside influences that we don't take into consideration. We don't actually even pay attention to or anything like that. But institutional buyers, hedge funds are buying property too. And they're buying it more now than they ever have because they're able to buy them, hold them, rent them. It's going to go up in price. They're going to sell it, right? So if we had an appreciation 18 months, month over month, like we did last year, an average of 15%, that's 15% that they're that they're theoretically earning, which they can show in their books, which makes their hedge fund more powerful, right? That's an outside influence that we don't have any control over, right? They just have too much money, but they're out there buying more properties now than they ever have. So that's also impacting us. But that slide that you shared that made Anthony go wow, that's making me go wow too.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Johhny, I want to, this is a question that comes up all the time, is the iBuyer question. And is there a comment in there?
No.
Are you reading something?
Oh, wait a minute. Let me see. Chat. Great question. Wow. No, San Diego was the last thing.
Yeah. Now, I will tell you this, we've got a lot of information on the iBuyer piece because this comes up a lot in conversations like this. What would you say the share of transactions, and maybe let's ask people in the chat here, answer this question for me. I'm going to be watching right here. What do you think the percentage of transactions by iBuyers is in this country right now?
Does that include institutional buyers? I got my guess.
Okay.
I'm gonna say that it's probably less than 5%.
Anybody else want to guess?
18% from Angie.
18%. Let's go to the survey. Let's see what CoreLogic says here. The analysis of iBuyer activity suggests that while the activity reached a record level in 2021, iBuyers remain a relatively small share of total transactions, about 1% nationally.
That's crazy.
When you look at, I'll give you I can show you a number of different things on this. This is something there is no doubt we're seeing more investors in the market. That is absolutely true. When you bundle all of that up, it's a small fraction of the overall sales that are happening in this country. And I do agree with you, Johhny. There are external forces that we could debate all day that can have an impact on real estate. Geopolitical events, monetary, I mean, there's so many things. And I would argue those are things we can't control. That's not outside of the span of control in our business. What we can control is how we communicate about what's happening in real estate. And that's the big point of this, is when we look at it, having the facts about this is what's taking place, this is what's driving massive appreciation, is what we need to do.
Crazy stuff, man. And that's real world stuff. So inventory is that low. Where is the reprieve going to come from? Where does the more inventory come from? I was reading something earlier this week and it was like they don't anticipate more inventory coming. Anything around that? I mean, because we can't predict the future, but if interest rates start creeping up, do you think more people will list in a rush to try to capture in on that high market, thinking that it might turn?
In the short term, certainly that causes people to go, we want to do something. We've been thinking about doing something. And we want to kind of do it before interest rates go up. Sure, that does. Like I said, and I can bring this back next week, there is not a correlation between us selling fewer homes and rising interest rates. And there's not a correlation between depreciation in the market and rising interest rates, because rising interest rates are a sign of a growing economy. Let me show you something else. I find this very interesting. in the inventory conversation. Two things that are true. We have seen record low inventory the last couple of years in this country, and we have sold more homes each year. Both of those things are true.
That's crazy.
So it's not just an inventory issue, it's a velocity of the market. So you take 2019, you take 2020, you see here, these are existing home sales numbers. That doesn't include new homes. We've sold more each year by a lot. By a lot.
Not bad for a pandemic.
Right. We used to get that question all the time. What happens if we get shut down again? Well, the last time we did, we sold more homes than we'd ever sold before. So that's what happens.
That is interesting. This is why we need the data, David, because, you know, we can all have our own opinions and everything else like that, but the data doesn't lie.
Yeah. And I'll read what you just wrote in there, Anthony. I'm going to drop one more slide, and then I'll look at that. Now, here's what you want to look at. I would argue. We talked about inventory, and certainly you need to bring your local inventory expertise to the market. That's the video, Johhny, is what's happened locally in your inventory. I'm showing you national numbers, but bring locally. I'm telling you low inventory, but we're selling more homes. That is a fact. What is also a fact? The people that are buying homes qualify for them and can afford them. Yeah. Okay, so if you look at this is a graphic of the number of loans given with a 620 or lower credit score. Back in the housing crisis, all over the place. Today, you got to qualify for a home loan. You've got to qualify for the home that you're buying. And oh, by the way, what's the big conversation in the market? It's being consumed by cash buyers. It's being consumed by these buyers that have all this capital and they want to invest it in real estate. Equity rich homes are at a record level right now. We're not dealing in a situation where people are buying on these razor thin margins, just hoping to get into the home. No, people have money and they're putting that down on homes, and they know real estate is a great investment.
Yeah. Sell your home and buy an RV, everybody.
Anthony here. By no means I'm an analyst. California sellers are taking the interest rate maybe more rate increase cause them to really consider selling for fear of not being able to get top dollar for their home. Lots of folks on the fence there. Go California, the exodus. No doubt. You're talking about folks moving out of the state of California. Literally, I was talking to somebody, I mentioned Anthony in San Diego. There are folks that are retiring right now in San Diego, bankrolling their retirement by selling their home and moving just another market. That's why you see the states outside of California, prices are shooting up through the roof because everybody's doing that. Well, this is an interesting.
Still plenty of people buying in.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. I'll tell you that. This is one that comes up, and we need to have the facts. Absolutely have the facts in this conversation.
Yeah.
I think we're at the bottom of the hour here. I've got a lot more on this. We can go into, when we're back together, affordability. There's an affordability crisis on the lower end of just about every market.
Huge.
I can give you the dynamics in there. You can bring your local market expertise and be the expert here. Anthony, if you want to talk to me further about it, email me. It's david@keepingcurrentmatters.com. Happy to help you any way I can. But this is a big topic.
Yeah. And if y'all want local data, reach out to your state and local associations. They have all this data, usually right on their main public facing websites, right?
Yep.
You have it in your MLS. So you can pull these reports. You can say, let's compare our local stuff to the national stuff on your TikTok video in the green screen. Right? So be the person, put that data out there, put yourself at the center of the community as the most knowledgeable agent in your area. Real simple. Talk about the things that nobody wants to talk about, or the newspapers, and the news and all these other people, they put out all these atrocious headlines because they need clicks or they want to sell their wares, whatever they are. Come out with accurate information, question the official narrative or story, because oftentimes when you click on that story, it's got nothing to do with the headline.
Johhny, I would argue if you have that story, take it to the media. We're seeing folks being interviewed, being the expert. That is something we can bring this to them. They need to know this. They don't know.
That is something my friend Christina teaches agents how to get press, right? Be the person, pitch your story, right? And you can be, now all of a sudden, when you're at a listing presentation, you can say, oh, I was featured in the Washington Post. Right?
Yeah.
Or local newspaper or whatever it might be. Anyways, we're out of time. How do people get some free stuff from you, man? What do they do? They go
Absolutely. Go to Try KCM. You can download a free 14-day trial. Go check it out. See if this is right for you. $29 a month. But I think over the next few months, rising interest rates, rising prices, we're going to need to have the facts to be able to deliver to those that we serve.
Nothing but the facts, she said.
Mm-hmm.
All right, send over the facts.
Johhny, as always, it's great to be together.
Yes, sir. You make my webinars so easy. All I got to do is show up and you do the talking. So it's great for me. Anyways, guys, go to trykcm.com. Get your 14-day free trial. David, as always, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Be safe, everyone.
Bye.